your results are never going to exceed your self-image. Let's put it that way. And if the life that you're living right now is a reflection of who you believe you are, then you probably want to make some changes. And identity is built from repetition. It's not built from truth. I really want you to think about that for a minute. Your identity is built from repetition, not truth. So if you've been repeating stories like I'm not consistent, or I'm not confident, or I'm not a leader, even quietly in your mind, that becomes your identity, even if it's not really true. And identity shifts don't happen through more effort. I want you to really understand this. They happen through more alignment. Every time you make a decision that matches your future self instead of your past self, you shift your identity. Your dreams don't require more hustle, they require a more aligned identity. Welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. And this week on the Daily Mastermind, we're going to be stripping everything back to the foundation. We're talking about clarity, identity, and confidence. Because before you can lead a business, you've really got to lead yourself. And so we're diving into how you can create that clarity. We talked about that on Monday by clarifying your vision. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about shifting your identity. And then on Friday, I want to talk to you about overcoming the doubt that holds most entrepreneurs back. So today we're continuing this thought process on leadership and series that I've been really wanting to do for a while. But the topic's going to be the identity shift, because the truth is simple. You're never going to outperform the identity that you hold for yourself. It's that internal thermostat that you are setting. Your results are never going to exceed your self-image. Let's put it that way. And if the life that you're living right now is a reflection of who you believe you are, then you probably want to make some changes. And so if you want to create a different level of success, and I'm not talking about maybe you're not crushing it. I'm just saying that there is a lot more inside you that you can level up to. And if you want to elevate your business, your mindset, your confidence, your leadership, you've got to evolve your identity, not just the goals, not just the strategies and tactics, but the identity that you're using to filter all that. So I want to show you today about some things on like how you can take steps to identify your next level, and then what it's going to take to transform into that level. And, as you know, I've spent 30 years working with some of the greatest minds and thought leaders out there. So none of this is, some of this is my experience, but a lot of it is just words of wisdom and golden nuggets that I've taken from people that I've had the opportunity to be around. So one of the biggest misunderstandings in personal development, I believe, is that when you believe that the results create your identity, right? When you say that your results create your identity, people think once I make more money, once I lose weight, once I grow, my business, then I'll feel confident, and then I'll feel like a leader, and then I'll believe in myself. But that's not how transformation works. Transformation works where identity has to come first, and then the results will follow. And your identity is like that thermostat I mentioned. It regulates what you allow yourself to experience. Even if you get a sudden spike of success, it doesn't matter if it doesn't match your identity. You're going to self-sabotage it. You're going to fall back into the levels of what you think you belong at. And so think about this in your own life. Have you ever noticed how quickly you can talk yourself out of an opportunity, or how you can resist new levels of responsibility, even though you say you want those? And that's your identity. That's the internal story that you're living from. We all deal with it. We all experience it. Leaders aren't born. They're built. They're built from the inside out. And your habits, your discipline, your confidence, your resilience, it all flows from your identity. So when your identity is limited, your performance is going to be limited. You've got to realize that identity is the engine behind everything that you create. So how does your current identity get formed? Well, before you can change your identity and level up, you've got to understand like where you came to and where you're at, because your current identity is not who you are. It's who you've learned to be, if that makes sense. Your identity was shaped by your experiences, your conditioning, your failures, the comments people make, good, bad, or indifferent, your fears and patterns that you have. Most of this happened unconsciously. And if you ever grew up hearing that you needed to be more realistic, or you might unconsciously feel like when people are telling you to be more realistic, you might unconsciously be limiting yourself. And if you failed early in your career, you've had down times. You may be internalizing that belief that you're not capable. So these are ways that you formed your identity. And if you spent years putting yourself or others down, you may have unintentionally created the identity of someone who doesn't sort of prioritize their own growth. And an identity is built from repetition. It's not built from truth. I really want you to think about that for a minute. Your identity is built from repetition, not truth. So if you've been repeating stories like I'm not consistent or I'm not confident or I'm not a leader, even quietly in your mind, that becomes your identity, even if it's not really true. So here's the good news. If identity was built unconsciously and it was built, through repetition, it can be rebuilt intentionally. And leaders, they learn to upgrade their identity on purpose. They choose, how they want to believe, how they want to act, how they want to show up. They stop letting their environment dictate who they become. The identity that they have is not fixed. If you're a leader, your identity is flexible. You can shape it. And so, how do we go ahead and start creating the identity of a next level leader? How do you step into the future version of yourself instead of repeating all those patterns? Well, there's a simple framework that you can use. It's about consciously designing the identity of the person you want to be, and then aligning your daily behaviors with that identity until it becomes your new norm. So start by asking yourself a few questions. Who's the version of me that has already achieved the results I want? Who's that person that's going to be where you want to be? How does that person think? How do they act? How do they decide? What does that version of you no longer allow in their life? Maybe it's negativity or it's certain habits. These are the questions that start to transform your identity because they shift your attention away from where you are towards who you're becoming. So if that makes sense, let's kind of go a little deeper. The future you, the you who's confident and disciplined and consistent and aligned, that version of you already exists as a blueprint. You may not be living it, but you could describe it. You could identify what that person does and what they act like. Your job is to close the identity gap. The identity gap, that distance between where you want to be and where you are. And identity shifts don't happen through more effort. I want you to really understand this. They happen through more alignment. Every time you make a decision that matches your future self instead of your past self, you shift your identity. And when you choose discipline instead of an excuse, when you shift your identity, when you act confidently, even when you feel afraid, you're shifting your identity. And when you say no to things that you don't deserve, that right then is a shift in your identity. Because, identity is built by repetition, not perfection. You don't need massive change. You just need constant, consistent alignment. I want you to write a profile or a page that describes your future self. Describe your habits, describe your confidence, describe your leadership style, describe how you speak, how you walk, how you talk, how you make decisions. This is the identity that you want to step into. And when you create that and you know what it is, it's more tangible and it's easier to align with it. So it's important. I want to just mention this other thing to you before we go. Let's talk about something honest. When you start upgrading your identity, the old identity is going to fight it. You might feel resistance and a little uncomfortable, imposter syndrome. You might question whether you're capable or not. It's totally normal. This is expected, in fact, and it's proof that the transformation is happening because you're noticing it. You're not resisting the new identity. Your old identity is resisting losing control. And so your comfort zone isn't comfortable because it's easy. It's comfortable because it's familiar. And so you're just familiar with what your comfort zone is. Now, when you start operating differently, your brain's going to see that as a threat. It doesn't want change. It wants safety and repetition. But that's why you have to override that resistance with intention. Your goals. Don't interpret doubt as a sign that you're not ready. Interpret it as a sign that you're growing. It's an indicator. Transformation requires stepping into behaviors that feel unfamiliar. And courage is not the absence of fear. Remember, courage is choosing the identity that aligns with your vision, even when fear is present. And that's how leaders grow. That's how entrepreneurs evolve. That's how identity shifts happen. And listen, every breakthrough you'll ever experience in life requires becoming a different version of yourself. You've done it already. You can't create new results with old beliefs. So as we go, I want you to just take away these things here. First, identity drives your results. Your dreams don't require more hustle, they require a more aligned identity. And if your results haven't changed, then your self-image probably hasn't either. And then also, identity is formed by repetition, not reality. Remind yourself of that. You can change and force your identity through repetition, and old patterns can be replaced with new patterns. And then lastly, your future self already exists. Think about this. Your future self already exists as a blueprint. When you align your decisions with that future version of yourself, even in small ways, you begin to close the gap between who you've been and who you're becoming. You're not stuck. You're just repeating an identity that doesn't match your vision anymore. And the moment you shift your identity, your results are going to follow. So that's my message for today. I hope it's something that helps you. And I hope you realize that Monday, when we talked about creating clarity in order to be more confident, and when you realize that you can create your identity and then just start to align closer to it on a day-to-day, you are starting to create the next level that's waiting for you to live in your life, because it's never too late to start living that life you are meant to live. But you've got to take action and you got to be intentional. And that's why I'm doing this kind of series through the end of the year, just so you know what I'm trying to do here. And this week's all been about that foundation of clarity and confidence and identity. But on Friday, we're going to talk about overcoming the doubts that kind of hold you back. And I got some great interviews and things coming for you. So hit me up on the Daily Mastermind. Let me know what you're dealing with, what your wins are. Let's celebrate some wins. Also, head over to dailymastermind.com, or if you're looking to grow your authority, go to authoritymedianetwork.com. authoritymedianetwork.com, you'll be able to get a ton of resources. We are doing a ton of stuff for entrepreneurs and high-end CEOs, all stuff that you can get access to. So make sure you check that out. I'll look forward to talking with you more. Once again, this is George Wright III, and this has been the Daily Mastermind. Have a great day.